Hi, I'm Jo from Atwell Solicitors. I am the marketing manager. Normally on a Friday, hopefully you've noticed I've been posting articles on LinkedIn, but today I want to do something different. I'm at home, I've got a little bit more time, so I thought I'd do a little video and just talk to you about branding. I want to talk to you about the 8 elements of branding and what each sort of element means and what it consists of. So first one I'm going to talk about is identity. Identity consists of a name, a logo, and any visual elements that your business has. Now, for a service provider, this could be stationery such as client letters. Um, it could be your digital elements such as a website or your Facebook. For a product provider, it could be packaging, receipts, or the shop itself, which people purchase from. In regards to the name, that forms the basis of a logo typically, but a name normally is part of the identity. Now, this can vary depending on the type of business and reputation you have. A lot of people I've seen will use their own name in some way. Cadbury's, for example, is a great example of that. With the family, they use their family name. But then you have other businesses that will use their business name to describe what they do. So, for example, Instagram is a good example of that. It really highlighted that it's to do with photography just by the name. But it's quite difficult as a small business to just have a name that will convey exactly what you do, and that's where a tagline will come in. So a tagline is used to give a little bit more detail and definition to a name. So even when Facebook started, it would have had a tagline. I think it was to do with something to do with being social. I can't remember offhand, but I'm sure you can Google it and look it up. So we have taglines in businesses to define what we do. So if you have a name, for example, like I'm just going to use Atwell's, because obviously it's where I work. Atwell's on its own, you wouldn't necessarily know what we do. Atwell's solicitors would give you an indication. We're a solicitors firm, but it wouldn't necessarily say what type of law we do. But if we had a tagline underneath that, which was property law experts, it'd give you a really good indication this is what we do. The other element around this is the logo, and it tends to be the thing that people go for. I'm guilty of this, ex-graphic designer. I will literally go straight to making a logo without giving the other elements a lot of thought, just because I love design still. I'm still really in love with design and artwork, even though I now have a master's degree in marketing. So when you look at a logo, you really need to think about its placement and the different placements that it will be on. There's a trend at the moment. I'm just going to use the example of the Pringles little man. There's a trend at the moment you will see for logos to sort of become a bit more plainer and simpler. That's come because of the digital revolution that we've had. Because of websites and different ways we're sharing material now and imagery, it can't be as detailed as it once was. With the birth of the Mac, we got into quite heavy detailed logos, and that kind of more sort of detailed print look was sort of more in vogue, very similar to how it was in the sort of early 1940s and so on, when sort of branding was relatively new and different. You'll see that at the moment, actually, if going back to Cadbury's, for an example, they've brought out their 200-year collection. You'll see how gradually the logos got more and more concise, and then it sort of went through still an element of detail in the 80s to 90s, and to now it's quite simple. And that's because of things like Facebook and websites. You need to be able to make that symbol quite concise. The other thing that Cadbury's have is the 2 milk little glasses. That's like a shorthand version of their logo. We have the same. We have the Atwell's A. Pringles will use the man. They won't use the word Pringles. They'll use that little head, which is why it's got simpler. And I think elements of his face have changed recently. Trying to think of others. Facebook, again, mentioned Facebook already in this video. They just have the little F that they do, Facebook. That's because sometimes your logo has to fit in very small places, such as top corner of the search bar for your website. in your Facebook little icon, your profile picture, and also maybe on receipts or on some sort of invoice. So it's important that when you design your logo, you're ensuring it can be in all these different formats. You need a landscape and portrait version. You need a smaller version. You need to be able to condense it, but you also need to look what it's going to look like on different backgrounds, different materials. So think about a black or white version, monotone, and maybe incorporating different colours into your brand to ensure that you've got some contrast. Football teams do this really well. Next is, going off from the logo, is brand guides. It's part of the sort of visual elements that you have and forms basis of that. But think about the type of font you're using and how you can carry that forward. I've seen a lot of brands using quite fancy font in their logo and not being able to take that forward into their overall brand and tone sort of visual tone, because it's not compatible with Outlook. There's not a version on Word. It's not a web font. So think about all these things. How can your audience understand that actually this piece of paper or this email has come from you? And they're all things to consider when you design your brand, your logo. Also, remember, stick to your brand guides. Consistency. People want to be able to come on a journey with you and feel comfortable and not have that disposition of, is this still you? Has this come from you? Tone of voice is also important. It's one of the things we're quite guilty of at Wells, because we have so many people writing our blogs that often the tone of voice is different and there's no sort of consistent voice. Now, some people may argue that actually that is a brand identity in itself or a unique selling point, because actually the tone of voice will differ and defer to the type of person we're writing to. But it all really depends on your brand. If you're a clothing brand, for example, and your audience is a young audience, then writing a kind of to a sort of Gen sort of Z audience may not be right for you. You may need to lower that. You need to think about reading age, things like that, which is also very important for SEO when you're writing blogs and anything on social media or on your website or other people's websites. The reading age typically around age 13, which may sound really young, but it's actually I think it's more to do with the way we digest information. We just don't give it the time, so make it easy for people to understand. I've gone on quite a lot there about identity. As I mentioned, I can't edit this, and therefore there's going to be a lot of waff in this. Next is perception. How are you perceived as a brand? How are you perceived? You know, what's the perception of, say, something like I'm going to go back to Cadbury's again. What's the perception of Cadbury's? What do you think of when you see that purple colour? And what is the customer experience like? A good example is how the packet opens. Before it used to be file and paper, and now it's that sort of more plasticky kind of rip. I found doing this really well. Their whole experience from purchasing the phone to the box opening, the style of the box, that's all been designed and thought of. For a service provider, this could be thinking about the correspondence you send, how you send it, how you present it. You know, do you want to send it as a letter? If you prefer to send things as an email, well, then how are you going to send additional contact, things that need to sign, things that need to hold and keep? And this is all part of the customer experience, notwithstanding the actual service or product you're providing itself. It's no good if you have a product that doesn't last long, or if there's continuous faults. If there is a problem, how do they get in touch with you? What is that complaints procedure like? Same for a service. What's the service like? Are you upholding a certain level of standard? Are you communicating and offering a service that fixes a pain point for your client? So there's lots of elements to the perception. The main thing with this, which is another part I'm going to tell you, is consistency and making sure you consistently maintain your identity and your perception. Next, promises and values. This really links nicely to both of those points of consistency and perception. Make sure you're known for something, and make sure that being known for something is a positive thing. They do say there's no such thing as bad advertising, but I think maybe there is. I mean, you don't want to be known or be in the press because you're constantly being held up for your bad client care or customer service. For example, if you were Cadbury's, and keep going back to Cadbury's, I'm clearly missing chocolate, being a vegan. But if you think about Cadbury's, they don't want to be known for shoddy chocolate or bad taste or contamination in their product chain. They want to be known for this creamy chocolate, delicate, sort of nice experience, but affordable, delicate experience. Like for us, we want to be, for us at Wells, we want to be known as the client care service, 5-star client care. And we do everything we can to make sure that our service promises hit people's pain points. And a lot of that for solicitors is around poor communication and speed. If you think of the solicitors, I know I did before I worked at Wells, I believe they all worked really slow. My mum had a great saying, they only works 2 speeds, slow or dead slow. And that is like, that's the perception. So we're trying to eradicate that at Wells. We're trying to be different. That's part, going on to the next point, that's part of our unique selling point, our positioning. Our positioning is we do things differently. We don't want to be the same as everyone else. You know, we're doing some great work at the moment on TikTok. Well done to Libby for doing that. And our TikTok is all about recruiting youth, but also getting our message out there that we're not sticking the muds. We can have fun. We can laugh at ourselves and be a bit different. And we're trying to reach a massive audience that are second time and first time buyers. They're going to be on TikTok. You know, you must know yourself. I'm the same. I'm scrolling on my phone and I watch these videos. Well, it's actually, whilst, you know, there's a perception of maybe we're lowering the tone, actually, I'm quite happy to know that the person who's doing my conveyancing is actually quite fun and I can talk to them. And I haven't got to worry about talking to them or having a conversation with them on a Monday morning because I know that they're just like me. And that makes me feel at ease. That's very important. Again, in terms of positioning, talked about it before. For us, it's also client care and how we deliver that. We record that via FIFO. We're very passionate about the client care we give and uphold. That sets us apart. So everything that you do in your business needs to set you apart from your competitors, whatever that is for you. If you're hairdressers, it could be that you're renowned for your hair cutting abilities and you do it within a certain time period, or you charge a lot of money, but actually the cut itself is magnificent and no one can touch you with that. So you need something that you can do different to other people and be different. Again, for us, it's our diversity, it's our laid back approach to interactions with our clients. It's friendly, it's relaxed, non-threatening, non-intimidating at all. And this, because I like lead on. I feel like I've like planned this, and I really haven't. The next is emotional connection, and it's the last point. But if you think about what we've just talked about how we go about delivering our client care and how we choose to communicate with our clients, and our videos and our kind of Facebook posts and that, what our website looks like. You think about our Meet the Team page. They're just pictures that people have taken of themselves. They're just pictures that you'd find on Facebook or on Instagram. You know, see, they're still professional to a certain standard. They're not, you know, they're not like people down the pub acting Larry, but it shows their children, it shows their hobbies and their interests. We try to create a personal connection. We do this through the people, for who we are. You know, as Atwells, we are a group of people who have a very set standard and value set. You know, our standards for client care, but also our values as humans and people, and how we perceive professionalism and how we perceive being approachable and friendly and all these things that people need and want. We talked about the pain points earlier of clients. Well, the pain point of a typical solicitor client is not getting back to you, not working fast enough. We contact you even if there's nothing to contact you about. So a good example of this is searches. Searches can take a while to come back. As a consumer, if you're not involved in profit law, you may not know this. So we'll update you. We'll update you and say, we're still waiting for your searches. Everything's going to plan. Everything's fine. And that email or phone call may take us a couple of minutes. But how nice is that for you as a client to get that and to know, oh, okay, they are doing something. It hasn't gone quiet. They are still working on my matter. I understand. We'll also ask you things like how your weekend was, how your day is going. We'll remember details about your family and about things that are happening with maybe your move or other things you may have mentioned to us, because we actually care and we are interested in the conversation and what actually is happening in your life and how we can help you. You may not get that from other firms. That's what makes us different, and that's part of creating this emotional connection. We want our clients to feel like they can come back to us. Another good example of this, and I'm going to keep mentioning Cadbury's because they're a fantastic brand, but think of the emotional connection people have with chocolate. You can use gin. It's Friday. Think of your favourite gin brand as well. The emotional connection you have with that. On a Friday night coming home, I'm going to have a nice drink. I'm going to have a nice piece of chocolate. It's a reward. It's a treat. Therefore, if Cadbury's or your favourite gin brand feel short of what you expect, it's going to damage that emotional connection. But if they keep maintaining that and you take comfort in that and you associate their product with good times, it's going to make you want to consume more. It's going to make you want to keep buying. You're not going to buy Galaxy because you've got a connection with Cadbury's. Now, you're not going to buy Aldi's own brand gin because actually your brand of gin is associated with this positive experience, and that's another thing that adds to your overall brand. So I just want to go over what we've talked about because I realise I've probably talked really fast in my nervous haste. But when you think about brand, you need to think about identity, perception, promises, the experience, your reputation as a brand, the emotional connection, your positioning, and consistency. Out of all those, consistency is the important one. Be consistent. Consistently good though, not consistently bad.